Hello, everyone, and welcome to our first episode of Business 101, where I interview different entrepreneurs and business people from around the world, and they tell us all of their secrets and their not-so-obvious secrets, and we're able to learn for ourselves how we can build our own businesses and become financially independent. Today, our guest is Safaa In Transit, who is an amazing entrepreneur from Pakistan, and she lives in Karachi, I believe, where she runs her own media company, she runs her own retreats, and we're going to find out all about that today. So welcome, Safaa.
Hi, thank you for having me here. I'm so excited for this.
Me too. Okay, so I have some questions for you. How did you go from a normal teenager to now running your own media company?
Around when I was in the 6th grade, I decided I wanted to be in marketing because that was something that was always so interesting to me as a child. Even I loved watching ads and I loved understanding marketing campaigns. So I decided to go for that field. So all my subjects were chosen and my degree was chosen accordingly. And my dream company to work at was Coca-Cola. So once I got done with my degree from Coventry University, I came back to Pakistan because I was missing home so much, and I started applying everywhere. And honestly, in the first 3 months, I pretty much applied everywhere in Karachi, but I did not get a job anywhere. And I thought that a degree from maybe a foreign university is going to probably land me a great job anywhere, but that was not true. And I started my first job at an activation agency, which is all about BTL marketing. I did that for about 2 years, and Coca-Cola actually was one of my clients.
What's BTL marketing?
Sorry? BTL is below the line marketing, which is basically anything to do with human interaction and no media. So basically, when you go to a mall in Singapore and they're like, people standing, they'll come up to you and be like, hey, would you like to try our product, and tell you all about it.
Like face-to-face marketing. Got it. Okay.
Yes, face-to-face marketing, direct marketing. So basically, I was doing that, my first job, and I learned so much from it. And then Coca-Cola was actually my client. So I decided to quit my existing job because it was getting a little too much, and I wanted to study a little more so I could get better opportunities. And I quit my job and found out that my client, Coca-Cola, my dream company, had an opportunity. So I applied for it. And because I had worked for them, the interview was pretty much easy and everything. So I got in and I had to move to a different city for it. So I went to Lahore. And that's quite a big deal for someone who is not married and living in a different city, and especially as a Pakistani girl. So I moved to Lahore. I did that for about a year, and my mom called me back and said, hey, I'm alone, and you should come back and everything. So I decided to come back, but because I was so good at my job, they did not let me go, and they said, hey, why don't you just work from home and work from Karachi, and there's an agency office, so maybe you could just go there every time we want to do a con call and everything. So I said, sure. So I did that for about a year, but I knew I could not progress. So I decided to quit my job and get into another beverage company here in Pakistan. I did that for about 8 to 9 months, and I didn't like it. So I walked up one day to my boss and I said, hey, this doesn't seem the right fit for me. And he's like, what? And I said, yep, I gotta go. And I quit. I got my resignation accepted on WhatsApp, and 2 days later, I had registered my company all on impulse because I thought that I just couldn't work for like a 9 to 5 or work for an organization, and no matter how much effort I put in, just get a limited amount of salary every time. So I decided I'm going to do my own thing, which is all going to be driven by effort. The more effort I put in, the more I earn. So I started Mad Media, which is a digital marketing agency. It does social media management, content generation, influencer marketing, talent management. So after that, for about 2 years of having Mad Media, because one of my passions is travel, so I started a travel retreat company, which you're familiar with. It's called Utopia Retreats. We take groups of people, it's not just influencers, and we take them to a different country so that they can get to explore and open up and travel with strangers, become friends. And the great thing about Utopia Retreats, which is different, is because those strangers are all from the same industry or same group as you. Yeah. So you get to connect with them because you're like-minded. Mm-hmm. And at the same time, you just come back with, being friends with strangers. And we also do workshops over there. So it's not just basically you're going out for fun. It's fun and learning. So we wanted to combine the two. And yeah, that's pretty much it.
Cool. Thank you for the background. I think it's important that we kind of see where you're coming from before we go into all of the questions and everything. I want to ask you quickly. You said you moved to another city. I know, from people in the US where I'm from, that's like pretty normal. Like you can move away from your family and move to the city. It's not a big deal. But for those of you listening, like from the US or from Europe, in a lot of Eastern cultures, if you're a single woman, like moving away from your family is very crazy and like almost impossible. So how were you able to like move? Where did you live? Did you live with family in the other city, or did you like have roommates? How did that work?
Yeah, like I said, it was very, very tough. And honestly, I had applied for my job, and I knew I was going to be in Lahore. And I had sort of given my mom a feeler that it's going to be in Lahore, so I might need to move for it. And at that time, she was like, yeah, sure, cool, because she obviously thought I wouldn't probably get it because it's such a big company or whatever. Turns out I got the job, and I told her, and I said, hey, I got it. So when am I moving? And she's like, no way, you're not moving. And then the whole shebang of, our culture does not allow it. What are people going to say? You can't be living alone. It's not a safe country or city or whatever. And I had to give her a lot of that I'm going to be okay. The great thing is that my mom is, as much as she's strict, I've been able to have a relationship with her where I can treat her as a friend and get her to agree with me, because I always believe in having an open conversation with your parents. After all of the thinking, because she loves me so much and I'm amazing, she went to Lahore for me, and she was just trying to survey like places where I could, potentially live. We found a place where I could live, and we didn't rent it out because my mother just bought it. And she's like, hey, it's just property investment. You live there. Once you're done, I'm just going to sell it. I'm like, okay, I guess.
Yeah.
So initially, I was living with my aunt and uncle, which is my mom's cousin and his husband.
So
I was living with them. No, I was living with them for like a month while the house was getting ready.
Okay.
And one of my best friends from Karachi was also moving for a different job in Lahore. So she became my roommate, and I was pretty happy. So it's kind of like living with your best friend and you have the whole house to yourself. So yeah, it was pretty great.
Oh, amazing. Okay. So let me ask you some of these questions I have here. We're going to do like quick answers, okay? So in your Instagram profile, the first words that you use to describe yourself are boss babe. How did you decide that you embody boss babe?
Honestly, I was just looking at it strategically. Nothing is off the whim for me. Everything has a strategy. So boss babe, because I think I had that in me, an attitude that I was traveling with my own money and I was not like other influencers. My opinions and reviews were not for sale. And I had a business. I had one business at that time, and I was talking about leading your own life, being your own boss. And I think pretty much anything I was talking about kind of fit into that category. So I just went out there and I said, I'm going to call myself boss babe till people start calling me that. And I think that happened, because every time someone messaged me, hey, you're my favorite boss babe. And I'm like, I think I just branded myself, because that's what you need to do. You need to brand yourself first, and then people will follow.
And here's the question. A lot of people are scared when they're branding themselves or when they're on camera or making videos or content. They're scared that people will think they're like full of themselves. And I've had that happen before, where people thought I was like full of myself because of things I was doing for branding purposes. So what do you have to say to people who are afraid to say like I'm a boss babe, or to say I'm successful, or to say I've built this, because they're afraid people will see them as conceited? How can you come off as confident?
I think there are two parts to this, definitely. The first part is, if you think you're doing something right, don't really think about like people thinking, oh, you're full of yourself, because they don't know your story, they don't know your journey. Secondly, if you yourself feel like, hey, listen, I think I'm not exactly a boss babe, and why am I calling myself that? Probably you need to rethink it, Because if you're feeling it, then other people are they're definitely going to feel it a little more. So you want to make sure you brand yourself that is something you embody. It's not something you're just doing it for camera. So you don't want to be over ambitious. You want to make sure that somebody who comes to your profile or looks at your business or looks at your content can read it and be like, yeah, right, because I'm not a boss babe who doesn't talk about work or who doesn't talk about business.
Yeah.
I don't just stick to talking about travel. I don't just stick to talking about products. I talk about my life, which is as a boss. There's
Well,
a team of people who call me boss and they look up to me.
and that's one of the things I like about you is there's so many people on Instagram where they they call themselves this or that or personal coach or this, but they don't actually, when you look at their content, you can see they don't have any experience. And I think it's a very scary thing that there's so many people on the internet that get to say like, I'm a professional at this or I'm a professional at that. So this is just a newsflash to everyone watching. Like whoever you're trusting to take advice from, please check their profiles and make sure that they're actually worthy of giving advice. Okay, next question. What keeps you motivated when you don't want to work? And I know you've been struggling with that lately, especially. So, but you always...
Oh, it's Ramzan right now, so I'm not even working. There are so many projects I've said no to because honestly, I can't wake up in the day. I've only woken up for you, Aline, because I love you so much. But yeah, I lose motivation all the time, and that's what I think people don't understand when they always see a perfect picture and go like, oh, she's earning and she's doing so much and her day is so full. I try to make a point and I tell people like, hey, I'm not feeling motivated today. And for someone who has a marketing agency and has to come up with strategies and be creative, I think motivation really and inspiration needs to really strike.
Yeah.
So when I lose motivation, I have this habit that every year on my birthday, I write down my goals. So whatever my goals are, I want to travel to 10 countries, I want to earn this much, I want to save this much, I want to buy this, or even like, personal mental health goals. I want to be a calmer person, I want to have lesser anxiety, I want to practice mindfulness for 5 minutes or something. And I keep looking at it. And I just go like, whatever you're doing throughout the year, it's all for this. Whatever you're doing, even the smallest step or the biggest step, it's all for this, your yearly goals. You don't, plan beyond the year. You just plan for the year. That's it.
Yeah.
And if you feel like you're lacking your motivation, just look at this and just like, how will this get done if you keep having these, bad days? So you have to turn it into a cycle. If you're feeling anxiety or if you're feeling like you're not calm enough to work and get yourself motivated, then you first fix that. You meditate or you just sit and you just take a break. And after that, just come back with like an even stronger force that, if I'm not going to do this, nobody is going to get this done. So I'm probably saving the world from something. So I'm going to be the hero. I'm going to put on my cape and I'm going to get this done.
And you said you turn down a lot of clients and stuff right now. So how do you get most of your clients? Because a lot of people just getting started, they might have a skill, but they don't really understand like where are these clients coming from, especially if they're not really good at networking. So do most of your clients come to you or do you apply and send proposals, or how does that work at your company?
Initially, it was definitely 99%, actually 100% of me approaching the clients. Now that it's been almost 3 years for my marketing agency, Mad Media, now people know of me or my company because of my past services with other people, and they reach out to me. But at this point, I would say it's probably 60% them coming to me and 40% me going to them. And I think the biggest tip I can give to people, as much as it's cliche, network. Network is like your ultimate goal or ultimate savior when it comes to having your own business, because you need to network. You need to understand who's who. And that's one thing I've always been interested in. So anytime I'll even meet someone very casually, I go like, hey, yeah, hi, what's your name? What do you do? Where do you work? And I feel like if that could be my potential client, I'd be like, hey, I'm going to email you my company profile. And don't be afraid, okay? It's your work out there. You need to share with people for people to know. It's not going to magically have a lot of, your business can't go viral overnight. So you need to understand that you need to introduce yourself and your business pretty much everywhere you go. So anybody who has met me probably in 10 minutes would know that I own this business, and they would potentially reach out to me.
Exactly. This is something I teach. So I've been, as you know, I was doing the Dear Lean retreats in real life. You know, I had them in Bali. We had a retreat at the same time. And those are super focused on video making and content creation. And then Corona happened. And so I decided to start hosting the digital retreats. So I don't know if you know, but I've been doing the online retreats, and it's open to men and women. And one exercise we do is exactly what you're talking about. And it's so, so important. I call it perfecting your pitch. And it's essentially write down what you do, who you are, and what you have to offer to brands. And every time you meet anyone ever, try to get that sentence in somehow. So let's say like I'm at your house for dinner, and you know we're walking to the store after to get some chocolate, and we meet somebody and we're just chatting, and they're like, "Oh, what do you do, Lean?" And then I give my pitch, like just pretending. Oh yeah, my name's Lean. I run, you know, I'm a content creator. I do content creation retreats, and I do trainings for brands. So like in one sentence, it seems like a casual intro, but like you said, it's this planting of a seed that is so important. And I just want to reiterate what you just said, because I think that will help so many people getting started. You never know where your next job is going to come from. Like
exactly.
Places. Yeah. So
I swear there's so many times where I just introduce myself and they're like, "Oh yeah, we've been looking for a digital marketing agency. Hey, can you just email us?" And it has really worked out. So just take your chances everywhere and keep telling people what you do and be proud of it.
Exactly. Confidence. Confidence is key. Okay. Next question is, how did you decide? So I know you started your company kind of randomly because you were sick of working for another company. But for example, when I started running Dear Lean, I didn't turn it into an official company, like legally with paperwork. I just did stuff through my own account, which is legal as well, but it's not. You're not a company. So what made you decide to, instead of doing it through your personal stuff, to establish an actual business? And when would you recommend to our viewers when they should turn their hobby into an official business?
So the reason why I decided to turn it into a company rather than just be a freelancer is because I knew there was a very less demand for a strategist or someone who could think of campaigns. But as you know, that digital marketing, I'm sure even social media management has so many, job roles. So there's someone who moderates the page, there's someone who creates the content, someone who writes the copy, someone who does the media buying and all of that stuff. And I knew that I wasn't going to be a person who's going to do all of it because that's just going to consume a lot of time, and that's pretty much like doing a job for one client. So I decided to register it as a company. And to anyone who I want to give this advice to, if you are a person whose company is going to base on just your skill, then you can continue doing it as a freelancer. But if you feel like you need people and you're going to hire freelancers or you're going to work with a team of people, then definitely go for a company. It's a little more official. It's a little more, out there. There are more chances for you to grow that way. Because as one person, if you're a freelancer, your options are limited. You can only probably give time to like maximum 5 clients in a year, right? Yeah. But as a company, when you can rely on 10 people, then you can have 25 clients in a year. And I think that's a better bet. So you just need to understand what your skill is and what your ambition is, what your vision and goal is.
Okay. A lot of people have issues with hiring. It's one of the biggest problems, from the biggest companies in the world to like the little mom and pop shops. And you seem to really like most of your employees. So how you're like all the employees?
I love them. Literally, like we have these online meetings these days, and it's pretty much not work. We'll just discuss work on WhatsApp and we'll just catch up together. So I love my team so much.
And how many employees do you have right now?
So I have right now 4 employees that sit in my office, and then there's 6 employees which work from their own homes and spaces or are doing some sort of a part-time role with me. So there are technically 10 people on the payroll right now.
So how do you find these employees? How do you make sure they're being productive? And how do you stop like these friendships from becoming like a distraction from getting work done and things like that?
So I've always wanted to be a very chill boss because I've had my share of all kinds of bosses. And so I wanted to make sure that I experiment with these people. Like I wanted to see if I was friendly, were they doing their job? If I was strict, were they doing their job? So I think pretty much the first year of experimenting, in the second year, I was just like, okay, you can be friendly, but then while you're talking, all of a sudden you need to break and be like, hey, where's that report? And all of a sudden the mood will shift and they'll start focusing that this is work and play both. I like to keep it that way. As for hiring, every time I want to hire, and I always focus on hiring young people because that's the kind of work that we're in. It's for young people. People should know how to do Facebook and Instagram content and all that stuff. So I always put it up on my page, which is Safaa In Transit. So it has at least a community of people, and I get lots of CVs from there. Then we just skim through the CVs and feel like if anything pops up, we'll just call them for an interview. A lot of people from different cities also apply, and we go like, oh, this is a Karachi-based job, so I'm not sure, I'm not willing to pay for relocation or anything. And they're like, we really want to work with you. And I'm like, okay, you have to see me as a boss first. So I think my employees would be able to answer that better because I know for a fact, like they adore me and they love me, and same way, likewise for them. I've been able to hire really good people through sort of trial and error. So we do this probation period, which is 3 months where you're not a fixed employee. And in that 3 months, you're getting the full salary, obviously. But in those 3 months, we kind of test you out, and you can even leave the place, and I can also fire you without sort of a notice. Once the probation period is over, then you're like a fixed employee. So I've actually only fired one person from Mad Media because that turned out to be like a really bad decision on my part. But I learned from it, and I just realized that I shouldn't hire someone like that person. And everybody else has been really, really good actually. So I've been able to have really good picks when it comes to people in my team.
And do you hire? So for me, in the past, I've hired people based on personality match with me and based on work ethic, and not based on of course they need to have some experience, but I'm not hiring people who are more advanced than I am, for example. And so my question for you is, are you hiring people based on personality and then you take time to train them? Or do they have skills like Facebook marketing? They have skills like, do they know how to do what you're doing, or you literally have to teach them everything?
So a lot of people go like, oh, what is the minimum requirement for this job? And I'm like, you should just be awesome at it. That's pretty much it. So the first person I ever hired did not go to college, and she's done only high school, and she decided that she's going to earn money and she's going to save up and she's going to go to college with her own money. And I really sort of applauded that. And when I met her, I was like, that is so me. That is something that I would do. And that was like sort of like a vibe, match for me. Second thing, she seemed like a very, very hardworking person who would take instructions and just kind of stick to it. So I wanted someone to kind of understand where I'm coming from rather than a rebel at that point. So I keep hiring people every time with a vibe. So every time I interview them, if I feel like this person is not vibing with me, this person is just trying to, I've had, had to interview a lot of men who are not okay with reporting to a woman. So I'm like, hey, I'm never going to hire this person, because they go like, so, one person actually walked in and be like, am I doing an interview with you? And I'm like, yes. He's like, I thought I'm meeting the CEO. And I'm like, seriously?
Oh my.
Yeah. And I was like, and I just spoke to that person for like maximum 2 minutes because I wanted to give him that time of the day. And then he just left. And honestly, it's all about the vibe. There's some positions which are always skill-based, which are always experience-based. For example, graphic designing. If that is something that I'm looking for, then I want to look at a portfolio. I want to see what kind of stuff they can do. I usually sometimes test them out and be like, hey, you have 1 hour. Can you do this for me? And I'll see their speed and I'll see all of that. So I think it's different for every role. For like a finance role, I really don't think about much, as long as they know their numbers and they know how much tax I need to charge. That's all.
Just figure that out. Thank you. Yeah,
because I hate doing that.
Yes, I love that. Yeah, because something I struggle with is, and I wonder if you have run into this at all. Your job is different from mine, but there is some layover where I feel like I'm so experienced that it's hard for me to hire people that know how to do things that I don't know how to do, because I've been doing it so intensely for so long. And the people that might know better than me, of course they exist, but they're extremely expensive. Like, these are the people that work at Google and Facebook, and I'm like, I don't have a $300,000 a year salary I to pay you. Okay, so I have to be hiring like more, more, not entry level, but closer to entry level people. So like, have you struggled with that at all? Like, do you just direct everything yourself, or are you able, I know it's different in Pakistan because salaries are a little more manageable there, but it's still, you're still getting income at that level. So I imagine it would still be difficult to a degree. Have you encountered that at all, or not really?
I've been able to hire, I think, entry level, and then a little beyond entry level, but I haven't been able to hire like a senior resource, because I think same goes for me, because every client I talk to, they just want to meet me, they want me to be part of their meetings, they want me to be part of their pitch, their presentations, and even when, when they have their internal meetings, they just want me to be part of it, because what is Mad Media? Mad Media is me. It's my face, it's me, and pretty much anybody who knows me knows Mad Media. So I never wanted to hire a senior resource, not because of the salary or anything, because I just felt like then I'll get redundant, not because I know so much, and I feel like everybody can teach everybody, but I don't want to get redundant yet. But the plan is eventually, by probably mid next year, I want to hire someone who can do what I do, so I can step away and focus on other businesses, right? But till the time I'm involved, I want to work with people who I can teach, and they can grow, and they can come to that level where they handle it for me. So it's sort of entry level and a little beyond entry level, the team that I have at this point. Yeah, so I think that's pretty much it. That makes me think about it. Wait.
Yeah, you're
I'm just like, I'm just,
because
I'm like, why am I not?
Yeah, I hate the feeling of having to check everything. Like, I want to be able to have people that I can trust that anything they're doing is at the level that I expect. Because just like you, my face is very much associated with my company. And so any email that goes out of our company, any messaging, any post, like, that's going to reflect on me. Even simple things like grammatical errors. Like, it doesn't look good because I'm a native English speaker. So, so there's all these small things that I wonder how people deal with. And I know my partner, who has his own company, also struggles with this, with finding people who can do as well as we could do ourselves. That's a struggle we have, is like, why should I pay you if I can do it better, faster, And
that's true.
Something I've heard from other entrepreneurs is sometimes you have to accept that, actually, I'm not sure if I'm supposed to say which company it is, but one of our friends runs a big company in the US, and really big. And he says 20% of his employees do 80% of the work. So he has 20% of the employees that are like the awesome employees that are really go-getters. And then 80% are like, they're fine, but they're not like killer, but they're also necessary. So you can't just only keep 20%. So I think the one thing I need to accept is like, not every employee necessarily is going to be like killer like you, because people like us.
And I don't think anybody can be you, because the life that you've lived and the experience that you've had, they will possibly not be able to beat that. So they're only there to sort of, you need to understand, these employees are there to learn from you, grow as a team with you, and also sort of empower you by getting stuff done that you don't honestly want to, because otherwise you would have done it yourself. So initially I did struggle with my, this micromanaging, constantly like, hey, show me the post that is going on this page, show me and all of that stuff. I think quarantine has really sort of made me so laid back that everything is just happening on its own, and I just get like an update on every Monday and be like, oh, this happened, this happened. And I'm like, okay, cool. I'm just going to speak to the client because they want to speak to me.
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
I even keep telling people, like, to, speak to my team. It's fine. You can talk to them. But my team is, again, very young. I don't know why people have this thing with age. They go like, if someone's young, they probably would not know enough. And that is just horrible to think, because you really can't understand that you can't equate age equals to knowledge.
Yeah.
It's experience. It's a lot more that equals to knowledge.
Well,
So yeah, that's why people want to talk to me.
Yeah, especially in the digital media world. It's usually actually, if you're younger, you know a lot more. Like my assistant is 19, but she is smarter and more capable in digital media than a lot of people my age. Even though I did grow up with social media, she really grew up with social media. So what we might have to learn is very natural to her, because she just does it on her own. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, we have come to the money section of our conversation. Okay, questions. 1, what are your expenses every month? So what do you have to pay every month with employees, with rent, insurance, graphic designing, everything?
Okay. So every month I have to pay the rent of my office. I have to pay my 10 employees. Then utilities, for example, like water, electricity, and all that stuff, that is separate. That's not included in the rent for us. That's pretty much office stuff. But for myself, I have to pay for groceries. I have to pay for the house. I have to pay for a lot of things, because my husband and I are 50% partners in everything. I didn't want to take his money or ask for like a pocket money, or be like, hey, you're the man, pay for everything, and I'll just live here and be like, I'm empowered. No, I wanted to pay 50% of everything. So those are pretty much my monthly expenses. Yeah, I think I wouldn't call travel as a monthly expense. I think travel is more like a bonus for me now.
Yeah, exactly. And so what is, like, around how much is that though?
So in Pakistani rupees, I have to pay home and office expenses are about 400,000, yeah. 450,000. 400 to 450,000 PKR every month.
Okay, so that's around $2,500. Ooh, okay, so that's a lot.
Yeah.
So you have to make at least $2,500 just to break even. Do you ever get nervous about doing that, or you're always like, it's easy?
Only when I lose a client, that's when I start getting a little nervous, and that really gets me, like awake all night, and I'm talking to my husband about it, and I'm like, okay, what am I supposed to do? How am I going to do this? How am I going to do this? So then the savings fund sort of I have to pull out of. But I've been able to sort of replenish that empty spot of that client with someone or the other. So there are 2 types of clients that I have. There's a retainer client, and then there's a project client. A retainer client is someone who pays me monthly a fixed amount for a fixed scope of work services, right?
Okay.
So I'll take a look at their social media, or I'll take a look at their PR, and I know every month these are my duties, so I will get this much amount every month, okay?
Yeah.
And project is something which is sort of like a bonus, which is basically the stuff that I pay bonuses with, or I invest into something, or that sort of comes to me. Projects is basically the added stuff. So for the break-even amount, I always make sure that my retainers are equal to at least the amount of money I need to pay out.
For everything.
And even if I'm breaking even every month, I'm okay.
Yeah.
I can't go under that. So the minute I lose one of my clients and all of a sudden a chunk of money is just taken away from me, that's when I get a little freaked out. So I try to replace that person within a month or month and a half. And I just pick up on anybody who is willing to sign a contract with us for 12 months.
So you do 12-month contracts for retainers?
Yeah, we do. For retainers, it's a 12-month contract. And if they like our work, they can continue doing that with an increased charge. Just like sort of renting a place, you have to pay that even if you use it or not.
Yeah.
It's kind of like that.
And so is it like 500 per client usually, or is it sometimes depends on the client, the amount per month?
It depends on the client and it depends on their scope of services. For example, it's a very small client, and they probably get like 10 posts done, or they don't really have much work. So we charge them the minimum amount. And when it comes to a little bigger clients, a little more scope of work and a little more complex, then we start sort of upping the number. But we are still not working with multinationals for retainer, because for a multinational to sign you for a retainer, you must have about 5 to 7 years of a bank statement. And I've only been in the industry for about 3 years.
Yeah, that makes it really hard. Ugh, all that stuff makes it complicated.
Okay, with small businesses, support local businesses.
Yeah. Okay. I'm interested in the way you do the retainers. So, because I'm more familiar with project-based work, because pretty much everything I do is project-based, and most people that I know, we work on a project-based basis. So that one I'm more familiar with, and I am familiar with retainer work. But I'm interested in like, how do you decide what amount you're going to charge for how much work? And then how do you is it literal physical work? Like I'm doing 10 posts, or is it like you have 10 hours of talking to me and getting advice this month? Like, how do you balance that?
So usually a retainer contract has scope of work written in it, but it is not necessary that it might have number of posts written, or the number of PR mentions we're going to get them, or any number of hours. We don't commit to that, right? What we do commit to is sort of handling all your creatives, everything else, and doing all your media. So we basically say these are our job roles. So it's kind of like you're paying a salary for a person, but instead of hiring a person, you're hiring a company to do it, and there are 10 people who are going to do it for you, right? So we basically take care of job roles, and anything given to us is sort of our responsibility. There are some contracts where we're charging a little lesser, or they're asking for a discount. So we keep it to a limit and be like, okay, we will not do more than this amount of work, right? And there are no dedicated resources, and because a lot of people ask for a dedicated resource that could be their person, their point of contact. They don't have to call 6-7 different people, and I honestly can't be anyone's point of contact at this point. So it works like this, and how much we charge depends on scope of work. For example, if it's someone who's just getting their social media posts done from us, just getting them created, and they already have a different media agency, then we're gonna charge them the least amount. Then it's someone who wants to get social media creation done, but also get their media done, for example, their boost and everything, then we charge a certain surcharge. Then there's creative work, which is, okay, we also want to get our booklets or our pamphlets or our flyers or our billboards designed by you, then we charge another amount. And any work that we get in that month from them, we give it a timeline that 24 hours is minimum, and you'll get your work in 48 hours. So they know that there's a person who is there's a whole company which has 10 people, which is going to be available for us whenever we want it. And any kind of out-of-pocket expense, we charge separately. For example, if they want us to hire an animator, so the money for the animator is going to be separate, which is also going to be mentioned. Hey, pocket expenses are not included, will be charged as per actual. So we'll also do the service of paying them ourselves, and we'll wait 30 days for them to pay us.
Okay, so
we can provide that service as well. So it all depends on how much work you're doing. For someone like you, projects are, your main sort of source of income. Yeah. But with retainers, I'm not sure, but that maybe there are some clients who want to work with you on one video every month sort of a basis. And that's a guaranteed sort of paycheck. The reason why I wanted to get into retainers first was because I wanted that safety and security, which entrepreneurship does not have.
Exactly.
I understand that a lot of people don't go into being an entrepreneur because of the fact that does not give you a guaranteed paycheck. So that's one reason I wanted to make sure at least all my expenses are met, because I don't want to be a person be like, hey, I'm not earning anything and I still have employees to pay. That's what was happening in this corona lockdown right now. People are just not paying their employees, but I'm paying my employees to make sure they're going to keep working with me. Yeah, because my client is continuing to pay me. Because I'm willing to work. It's not like I'm refusing to work. If I refuse to work, then you don't pay me.
Yeah, I think having retainer clients is really smart, and it's really good that you're able to get them, because I know it's hard for a lot of people to lock down a client for an entire year, on retainer payments.
For my first year, I only had one retainer client. And that's why I only had one employee for, my first year, because I didn't want to hire more people and wonder where am I going to pay them from. So you want to basically go hand in hand. Oh, today I have more people. That means I can, I need to get more retainers. Or today I have more retainers. That means I can hire more people. So you just go hand in hand and then grow accordingly.
So in the pre-corona landscape, before everything went to crap, what was the average amount you would make per month through the company as a company? Like, let's say your outcome is $2,500, you have to spend $2,500. What's like your average income? Not your highest month, not your lowest month.
My average would be, this is the question.
What question is here? Listen for 40 minutes.
I've never answered this question. But the thing we say mashallah. Okay, so if anybody, any Pakistani or any Muslim is watching this, please say mashallah. Okay. Mashallah. And I'm only answering this question because there is a lot of curiosity and people. It's okay for people to know, I guess. So I make in Pakistani amount about 1.2 million a month.
That's pretty good.
So that is. It feels so weird saying it. What are you making me do? So that's the pretty much average. Do you want me to add the retainer amount in it, or like?
Yeah, your average monthly amount of income, including retainer clients and project-based clients, before you pay employees.
Before I pay employees. Yeah, so that would be around 1.7, 1.6 or 1.7 million. Yeah.
That's pretty good. That's great. That's very good.
I need the thug life glasses over here now.
Deal with it. Editor, put those in, please. Whoever's editing this.
and it goes to say, so some months are really good, some months are really bad. But what keeps me afloat are the retainers for sure. When I started my company, I had a goal that I'm gonna make $1 million a month every for the whole year. And in my first year, I was able to achieve that. So that sort of drove me to the point where I need to go a little higher, and keep saving and everything. So I've been very blessed.
Actually, a lot of people think that in other countries it's really hard to make a good living and it's like almost impossible. So I think that will be inspirational for a lot of people to hear, because you're very young, you're doing all of this on your own. And even if, some people do have a little help to get started, to me, that doesn't mean they're not smart and doing a good job. But, you are doing it on your own. And I think that will help a lot of people see it is possible, and it is something you can build. And what I like about you is I'm very high strung. So I'm making, my living, but I'm very stressed all the time. And you seem stressed sometimes, but like, you're not always stressed. Whereas like, I'm like mostly stressed 80% of the day. So I think that's nice, is you can have a work-life balance. You're doing stuff with your husband, you're choosing cute outfits and, doing your fun trips and things.
Yeah. So when I started working for myself, I made sure I kept to like sort of like a mantra of sorts. So it used to go like work to sustain, travel to stay sane. So I think that's what I believe in, that I work to sustain myself, to keep my mind sustained, to keep my sort of needs and wants sustained. But honestly, the thing that I enjoy the most in the world which is why I love what you do, is because you get to travel the world and you get to explore cultures, and I love it when you go like, hey, I don't know which country am I going to be in like a week, and I'm like, that's the life.
Oh, I did want to ask you before we go about your retreats a little bit. Thank you, by the way, for being open about your finances. Everyone claps for her. Yay.
Only for you, Aline, and people who are going to watch you eventually.
But with your retreats, I want to know, how do you run those? So for me, I'm running it by myself mostly, and I might have one person helping me on the retreat, like a co-teacher or something. And then I have around 16 women, and we're doing 80% work and 20% fun stuff. So for you, I get the feeling it's more 50-50 work and fun.
Yeah.
And also, I feel like you have quite a few girls running it with you. So for you, is the retreats primarily a business venture? Is that supposed to be a source of income? Or is it primarily some other motive, which is networking or something like that?
So Utopia Retreats is a very fun model, which is, it's co-owned by me. My husband and I both own Utopia Retreats.
Okay.
He is the managing director and I am the CEO. So how it works is that I have trip leaders, which are basically essentially girls. For example, we're doing an all-girls trip, then I'm going to pick about a girl or two who is going to help me out manage it, because somebody has to wake them up, somebody has to make sure we're following the timeline properly and everybody's getting all their questions answered and whatsoever. As a managing director, my husband looks after everything that's happening behind the scenes. So for example, wherever we're going, where's our transport at, where are reservations at, are we running according to the timeline that we planned, because we have a lot of 50% is basically day trips and all that other touristy stuff, because again, Pakistanis don't get to travel so much. We want to make sure if they're coming to Bali, they also explore Bali, right?
Yeah.
So my husband looks after all of that. I, on the other hand, I'm hosting it with the girls. I want to make sure everything is taken care of. I'm sort of the person, I'm sort of the face of it for something like an all-girls trip. But when eventually it's going to become a mixed trip, because we're going to do different types of retreats, then my husband and I both are going to be on the front and the back end. If it's going to be an all boys thing, then my husband is going to be on the front of it and I'm going to be on the back end of it. So even in both my last trips, you would see like 10 girls and then there's one dude who's walking in front of them. So I feel like eventually it's going to be like 10 guys and then one girl sort of walking in between them like, hey, I'm here. I'm right here. Don't forget me.
Mostly boys trip. That's awesome.
So yeah, Utopia is a very fun model. It's not a source of income for me as of yet. We've only done 2 trips. In the first one, I ended up paying a lot out of my pocket because we did not get enough signups. When people were very reluctant. Second time around, we got a lot of signups, and because again the dollar rate is so high for Pakistanis, not everybody can afford it. So we try to subsidize. That's the first thing that I want to do for my trips that can be sponsored by brands. So for example, we got 3 brands that would sponsor it. So somebody took care of travel insurance, somebody took care of like products and goodies, and they just took care of money. And all they want from influencers is sort of like a PR shout out, which I discussed with them that, hey, listen, we're giving you a discount based on this. So are you willing to pay lesser and do a shout out for them? And if they agree, they get to sign something, because I don't want anyone to like not be like, after they're done, they're like, I'm not doing it.
No, I'm not doing it. Yeah.
So we always try to subsidize it first for people, because I want more and more people to be part of it. And maybe eventually, I think what I've seen in sort of the future is that by the 5th or the 6th trip, that's when I probably am making a profit. Okay. Right now, even it's not a bad deal because I get to travel without paying anything for myself. So I think it's pretty good.
Yeah, you're like, I get a nice trip with these cool people. Awesome.
Yes, and this time around, we were able to partner up with Emirates, and they provided like 5 business class upgrades. So my trip leader, my host, and one of my attendees all got to experience business class for the first time. And
Wow.
they're saying,
Fancy.
we're never going back. We're never going back to economy. I'm like, yeah, business class does that to you.
Business class.
It was amazing. It's
I don't know if I'm going to put this on my Dear Lean channel on YouTube or make a new channel just for business. I'm trying to decide. But I'm really interested in the whole business world. But I was like, as a woman growing up, I didn't see almost any women in business. And so I just assumed I couldn't be in business, like subconsciously. I was like, oh, women don't do business, which is crazy because I'm from the US. It's like we're supposed to be so modern. And then as an adult, I'm like, why didn't I study business in school? And so it's kind of interesting because I somehow internalized these messages that women are not good at business. And so now I want to give the resources to women, and the reason I said I like transparency is so they can feel empowered. They know what they're working to. Because guys all talk together and tell each other this stuff, these secrets of business.
Yeah.
We don't have that because there's not enough of us in business. 3% of CEOs are women. Who are we supposed to talk to?
Yeah.
So I am grateful to you. You are our first interviewee. And
I'm so proud of that. I'm gonna brag about this a lot.
Yeah, you're like, I'm taking this to the bank. I am bragging all the way.
Yes, I was just bragging about it to my husband yesterday. I'm like, you know what? I'm like the first one to go on, and he's like, yeah, I'm pretty proud of you, babe. And I'm like, no, say it more. Say it more.
Be more proud. Be more excited. Awesome.
Well, this was so much fun. This is the first time we got to talk to each other finally, face to face.
So natural too.
I know, and I can't wait to meet you. So hopefully, wherever we are, maybe Bali, or maybe I'll come to Singapore whenever you come to Pakistan, or whatever, anywhere in the world, post-Corona times, we'll get to meet. And I want to give you a big tight hug because you've been such an inspiration, and I love the way you do your work, and I think you are a force to be reckoned with. And thank you so much for doing this for everyone across the world.
Oh, you are very nice. I'm blushing now. Okay, thank you. No more compliments.
Okay, you take care of yourself. Have a great team meeting, okay?
Okay, bye.
Bye. Take care of yourself.